it looks like we are live. I've got about half hour or so, maybe 40 minutes before my next meeting, so I figured I'll get in front of the camera for a few minutes. It's sort of permanently set up at my desk and talk a little bit about tariffs. So if you are watching this live, I know it's not the regular time and all, but if you're watching this live, please tell me that you can hear me. My indications are that the microphone is working. Okay, so as I'm sure most of you are aware, yesterday President Trump announced a broad range of tariffs on a ton of foreign nations, calling them retaliatory tariffs. I didn't look at all of them super carefully. I looked at the ones I care about. And some of them are a little bit odd to me. The one that's oddest is probably Israel. He put a 17% tariff on Israel, when I know for a fact that Israel does not tariff any US goods at this stage, so I'm not entirely sure how the whole reciprocal part there is working out. I did not check it with respect to other countries because I have less insight into how other countries. Mr. Amazon Triangle is here, loud and clear. Excellent, thanks, sir. Since I do not know for sure how our other countries treat US goods, I know most of them do tariff. In Israel case, I know that everything other than dairy has not been tariffed in forever and a day, and tariffs on US dairy goods were removed a couple of days ago. So I don't know if it's a mistake or there is some calculation I'm not privy to. The way this fuzzy math works was not disclosed. It's all kind of chaotic because fundamentally we do not know if these tariffs are here to stay or if Trump is just joking for a better negotiating positions on bilateral trade deals. Mr. The X is here. I wondered if you would address the subject. Yeah, I kind of have to. Besides, honestly, it's an intellectually interesting subject. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not a huge proponent of tariffs. I am okay with the idea of reciprocal tariffs, right? So it should be a relatively level playing field. Tariffs as a means of making money for the government is not a great idea. So in principle, right, if you tariff everything coming in, but do away with the income tax, fine, right? So government needs money. We can pay for it as a part of our income tax, part of our compensation, or we can pay for it as increased price of goods. The way things are looking right now, I'm still paying a shit ton in Texas, federal, state, etc. And now everything I buy is going to get more expensive because fundamentally the cost of the tariffs is going to the cost of the tariffs is going to go to the consumer, right? So everything we buy basically just got more expensive, unless it is indeed just a negotiating tactic, and over the next 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever weeks, there will be a variety of different bilateral trade deals with all the different countries that are particularly impacted by this, and all of a sudden Trump's going to come up to the same spot and say, okay, thanks to wonderful negotiations with our amazing partners, yada, 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 the tariffs on this country or on this industry from this country, whatever, are going down. Understood. The X tariffs are how we paid for government before 1913. Correct. And I don't have any problems with tariffs if that's how we pay for government instead of income tax, right? But now, like I said, I'm getting hosed with the income tax and with the tariffs. So I'm not super excited about it if they are here to stay. The argument that it's going to spur domestic manufacturing is a difficult argument in the sense that in theory it might. In practice, it is very hard for me to imagine how in the majority of the fields that people are yelling about, how anything good is going to happen. Here is a fundamental problem we're having, right? So let's very loosely divide, labor types into 4 types, like low-skilled blue-collar labor, high-skilled blue-collar labor, low-skilled white-collar labor, high-skilled white-collar labor, right? So Blue collar, white collar, low skilled, high skilled. Low skilled white collar labor is the most at risk of getting displaced by increasingly more sophisticated AI tools. Low skilled blue collar labor is mostly waltzing back and forth across the border with Mexico, and we have quite a lot of it that walked into the country in the last few years. I can probably make a solid argument that it's more than we need. High skilled white collar labor, so that's the world I play in for my day job. We are generally kind of okay. We don't have quite enough. Like in my industry, there's clearly not enough. But we're kind of gonna get okay there. And these are the people like me who are gonna be pissed off. Our lives were just made a little bit more difficult. But overall, like this whole manufacturing renaissance is not going to be based on people like me. What we're truly lacking is the high skilled blue collar labor. And I'm, for my day job, in a position to hire people, and it's rough. Ever since the left took over the educational system in America, they basically convinced everybody and their grandmother they need to go to college and get a degree in basket weaving. And if you look at the culture, again, the culture has devalued productive fields, right? So when you go watch a movie, go watch a TV show, etc., what's glorified? Lawyers, doctors, and art gallery owners, right? And if you see engineers, scientists, etc., shown in a TV show, they're either villains, world-class assholes, or geeky, semi-functional people who should not ever be out in the real world. Okay, so that is a fundamental problem. When have you seen anything good said about skilled blue-collar labor? Right? Everybody's looking down on plumbers, welders, and electricians, which we really shouldn't. I understand that we want to bring more productive things here to US. That is great. What I do not understand is where the powers that be think that we are going to get the people to actually work, because that is a real and fundamental problem. Now, it's not an irresolvable problem, right? It just takes time. You're not going to be able to do that overnight. What you're going to end up with is that businesses will be trying to do things in the United States and completely not unable to find employees, to find people to actually work. Okay. And that is going to be a problem. Another thing, and perhaps, and again, I'm not privy to any of the inside plans within the administration, so maybe there is more to it. One thing that really truly worries me deeply is that Trump likes talking about the big industries, TSMC from Taiwan, building a huge fab in the United States, big business. Big business is great. Big business hires a lot of people. If you want a strong and vibrant economy, you cannot be just big business. And for reasons that are fairly simple. For the most part, big business doesn't invent anything. Technology moves forward because small businesses take big risks, and sometimes they play out, and eventually the innovation happens with small businesses and small companies, and then if they stumble on something good, they get purchased by big companies who optimize it, produce it, etc. I have seen zilch, nothing, to in this entire economic program that is coming from the White House that would help potentially productive small businesses be successful. Right now, like we are giving subsidies to large businesses to build large plants, and the smaller businesses, and I run a small business, right? So I know exactly how that one works. And smaller businesses are basically getting shafted with taxes, tariffs, you name it. I sure hope the tariffs are mostly a negotiation tactic, and it's all going to be shifting and changing over the next several weeks. Because if it's not, I'm not super excited about where this is going. Okay. As far as riflescopes go, I went and looked a little bit, and so tariffs on China are now going to be 34%, Japan 24%, European Union 20%, 25% on cars, 20% on everything else. Philippines 17%, and Taiwan is, I think, 34%. Let me see. I think it's same on Taiwan as on China, which I think is 32%, sorry, which I thought was kind of staggering. So the vast majority of the rifle scopes we have are made in China, Philippines, and Japan. And now there is a new OEM that makes things in Taiwan. Okay. Mr. X. Companies like Ford, GM, etc. will shift production to US. I think companies like Vortex, Burris, etc. will have a tougher time reintegrating production of certain models here. That said, there is going to be a lengthy adjustment period, but our economy will be stronger for it. I hope you're right. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think, well, some of it is going to happen. I think there's going to be all sorts of negotiations, giveaways, political favors, and all sort of stuff. Shifting production to US, even for car companies, is not going to be so simple, because I think everybody is grossly underestimating the labor problem we have here and the major attitude problem for the current generation. They don't want to work, right? Again, having been going through this process of trying to hire people for quite a long time, I am not optimistic. Okay. Uh, Mr. Anyhow, the question I was answering, I keep on forgetting to put this on the screen. It's from the X. It's just like long term, maybe, but long term, right? If tariffs stay and taxes stay, that means that we are getting slammed. Okay, for quite a long time. It'll take years and years. If you want to reestablish U.S. manufacturing base, it'll take a generation, maybe more, at least. Again, it will require changes in the education system and everything. I don't think so. I think they're going to be negotiating shit out, and things are going to shift. And if Republicans want to be staying in power in 2028, they're going to have to moderate this, because the current situation is hitting everybody in the pocket a little bit too hard. Okay. Mr. Remmers and Twangers. I'm in the UK, but do you think scopes will go up worldwide to offset the tariffs to keep them competitive? Yes. They might go up actually a fair bit. So here's the catch. United States, from the standpoint of rifle scopes, is by far the biggest market. It's bigger than than the rest of the world put together. So manufacturers are going to do everything they can to mitigate the impact on their bottom line, which will be significantly dependent on what they do in the United States. Some of the smaller companies can focus in Europe and do well there, like Delta and Element. The two companies I know well do pretty well in Europe. But everybody's going to have to raise prices elsewhere to gain some sort of a competitive advantage in the United States. So it's going to get interesting, but there is not enough customers in the rest of the world to charge them enough to keep the prices the same in the US. Prices, assuming tariffs stay in place, prices are going to be going up everywhere, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I don't know. Link is quite a bit younger than I am, so I have an excuse for being a old crusty fuck. He doesn't, and he agrees the generation problem is huge. It is a big deal. Again, I think we grossly underestimate how long it's going to take to fix the labor problem and to develop another generation with sufficient skilled blue-collar labor. I think it's going to take a while, and we will all be paying out of pocket for that substantially. John Lacorte is of Tracked Optics. Do you know if tariffs are on top of duty? I was under the impression that yes, that they will be on top of that, but I'm not I'm not. This is not what I do for a living. I could be wrong, but I think this will be in addition to whatever duty has existed to date. I think. So where was I? So what's going to be happening now? The certain companies in the riflescope world will do okay, like Burris and Leupold, but they'll still have to raise prices because they're getting a good number of the components they use in their scopes to abroad in Asia, from different places, in different places. And in case what's going to happen if, let's say, somebody who is only taking in scopes from Japan, so the tariff on Japan is now going to be 24%, and they'll swallow a little bit and they'll bump prices, let's say, by 20%. And somebody like Burris or Leupold, who will also bringing in, let's say, only glass from Japan and doing everything else, assembly, mechanical stuff here, their costs go up by a little bit. Their costs will go up by, let's say, 5%. I'm just speedballing numbers. Um, and they will go and bump their price up by 10% so they can have a little bit more of a profit margin while still undercutting their competition who fully OEM in Japan. Okay. The assuming the tariffs stay as they are, the country that's going to benefit from it the most is not United States. It's going to be Philippines because they got hit with the lowest tariff, and they will probably be able to negotiate it down a little bit further. Uh, that's my best guess. But Philippines was hit with a 17% tax, European Union with a 20%, but EU right now are saying that they're not going to negotiate, they're going to do reciprocal stuff. So EU, European Union is gearing up for a trade war. Excuse me. Europe being Europe, I don't know how serious that is. They might really be gearing up for trade war, or they might just be talking big until they give it a week and fold. Nobody knows for sure, but we shall see. Interestingly, so UK is not part of EU anymore. I think UK got hit with a 20% tariff, right? Let me look it up. 10%. Okay. So UK is United Kingdom is 10%. United Kingdom doesn't make a ton of rifle scopes, although they do have the capability. May also have a labor issue, but I know United Kingdom makes red dot sights, shield sights as in UK. They make them in UK. So shield sights just got a little bit of a price advantage because United Kingdom got hit with 10%. Philippines 17%. So we'll see. That's where we are. Again, to reiterate, my basic take on this is that it's a negotiation tactic, and a lot is going to change over the next month or two. But a month or two are going to be turmoil because manufacturers cannot stop bringing stuff in, right? Once they work through their current inventory, prices are going to have to go up. Nobody is going to be able to swallow this much of a tariff, this much of a cost hike. So prices are going to go up. Prices on thermals are really going to get hit. On top of it, I just heard that a couple of people in Congress are going after IRA again for skirting Russia sanctions. So it looks like this whole sanction business on thermals is not over yet. So that's going to get interesting. So thermals are going to get really hammered. With thermal riflescopes, there are a couple of companies who make things in the United States, like Envision, Trijicon, a few others here and there. So they will become a little bit more competitive price-wise, I think. Not a bad thing. Armasight is going to do really well with this because they are getting comparatively little from abroad, and they're integrating their thermal and night vision stuff in the United States, and so they'll do pretty well. It's good for them. Okay. With rifle scopes, again, I'm trying to think. So who makes things in the United States? So Trijicon makes red dots in the United States, the RMRs, but they're already expensive. Tariffs are not going to be enough to cover that gap. They make their thermals United States. Their conventional rifle scopes come from Japan. EOTech mostly comes from Japan, although the holographic is made here. Vortex, the only commercial product they currently have that's made in US is a UH1, so that's gonna do that. That price probably won't have to change. Uh, they make a couple other scopes in the United States, but they are really for military contracts. I don't think they have quite the bandwidth to make much more stuff in the US. I'm gonna mute this for a moment. I don't think you guys want to see me blow my nose. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right, Richard from CS Tactical is here. Coughing, okay. And he's starting from the beginning. So, again, what was that? Yeah, Vortex. So, Vortex has the capability to do stuff here, but it's not a very large capability, not large enough for how big their market share is. But they definitely have the ability to assemble stuff. So, uh, companies who can will be playing some games where, they're gonna build a rifle scope in Asia, then take it apart into, three, four main components, something like that, bring it here like that, and then reassemble it here. And you get a lot of latitude in terms of what amount of money what value you assign to labor, right? So you can play some tricks there. You can assign significant amount of value to the labor of assembling and realigning it in the United States, and that's it's not easy, but it's not super hard to do. That's a comparatively straightforward type of expertise. So if you do that, then you'll be able to significantly lessen the impact of tariffs on you, right? And for example, a company like Vortex is very well set up to do it. They already do something very similar with their spotting scopes. They get them from Japan for, like, let's say, razor spotting scopes. They get them from Japan, and then they take them apart and rebuild them here, so they're like it's a U.S. assembly. So, and there is a form when you try to figure out how much you're going to pay in tariffs and stuff like that, where you go and say, okay, so this amount of content came from abroad, from this country, this country, this country. This amount of content was done in the U.S. And you have some latitude in what value you assign to how much effort you put into it. So Vortex, in principle, if they wanted to, could do that on quite a lot of different rifle scopes, but in terms of volume, I can't imagine them doing that to anything other than the Razor line, because everything else is just not expensive enough for it. That's why I think that we will see Filipino OEMs really do very well with this, because I think if these tariffs stay as they are, Philippines will actually have a cost advantage over China for anything more than a couple $100. So, so I think that's going to be significant. From that standpoint, Burris is pretty nicely positioned because the high-end stuff, XTR Pro, is assembled in the United States. XTR PS, XTR 3i, and the entire new line of full field scopes is built in the Philippines. Uh, so these rules, as they are, will give Veris a little bit of a comparative advantage, I think. And same goes for a lot of the Steiner stuff. So the like Steiner T series scopes are built in US in the same factory as Burris. That they are both owned by Beretta, so they're kind of sister companies. And let's see, who did I not mention? So Leupold, as I said earlier, they buy the glass from elsewhere. I don't know where they buy the mechanics. I know they machine the tubes in Oregon. So they'll do okay. They don't have to increase too much. Generally SIG stuff is mostly brought from elsewhere, but they do have the facility in Oregon where they're able to do some assembly. That's how they went after the government contracts. I don't know what they have there in terms of bandwidth to do more in the US, but they do have the capability. It's much easier to extend your existing facility than to build a new one. So SIG has every chance of doing a little bit better, but they do a ton of stuff in China. So SIG's going to have some complications. Um, let's see, US Optics. So they bring stuff from China. They do a little bit in US. So they might do okay. ZCO is interesting. So ZCO, so all the stuff for the worldwide stuff is built in Austria, but they have a facility in US where they used to build scopes. They probably still do. I thought in the past that all of the US market scopes were assembled in their facility in Idaho. Uh, I would imagine they'll just persist with that, and it's going to be relatively easier for them to keep the costs away from making big hikes. Tangent is in Canada. Canada got hit with taxes. Right now, they're all proud Canadians, etc. But I don't think Canada will be able to tolerate a long-term trade war with the United States. So if I were a guessing man, I would guess that Canada is going to be out negotiating and trying to drop the tariffs to something lower fairly soon, if not already. All the Chinese brands are going to have a hard time. This new Integrix scopes from Leapers. So the way Leapers was planning to do this, currently they are built in their facility in Taiwan, but they are building a clean room in a facility to do the integration in the United States. So in Michigan, if I remember correctly. So for them, this might work out nicely. The tariff on Taiwan is 32%. Again, I think it's going to be negotiated down, but time will tell. But if you have a facility in the United States, you can work around all of that. Let's see, other companies like Element, so they have scopes that the Japanese and Chapel that are made in the Philippines. So they're gonna get hit, but they are doing quite nicely in Europe, so they'll be able to probably spread some of these costs. We'll see we'll see how they do that. Bushnell, I don't really know what they're doing with the bulk of it is Chinese, so they're likely to get hosed. For the Euro company, the Schmidt and Bender just jacked up the prices, and if they have to jack it up by another 20%, that's going to be a big hit to their business. I'm hoping that they'll be able to absorb some of it because they already increased the prices substantially. Kalles, Swarovski, they do everything in Europe, so that's 20% tax on EU. I don't know what their profit margins are. I don't know how much they can absorb, but if the tariffs don't change, you can assume that's going to go up and not by a little. Miopta does things in Czech Republic and in China, so the Chinese stuff just got hosed. So maybe but the stuff they've been doing in the Czech Republic has been expensive already. So nothing there is looking good. Athlon primarily does things in China, only the Kronos. The optics are Japanese. So for Athlon, this is going to be a major problem. So if these tariffs in China stay as they are, 34% tariff is a big deal. So I don't think Athlon can absorb that. That's gonna be rough. Who else am I missing? Who have I not talked about yet? Let's see. I'm gonna go on Europtic or something website and just see what other brands, riflescope brands I forgot about. They have a nice list over there. All right. Okay. Night Force. So NX8s, Japanese attackers. Some are assembled in Japan, some are assembled in the United States. They'll probably end up shifting a little bit more to United States. Oh, there we go, brands. Here's a list of brands. So, Holosun, all Chinese, they're gonna get hit. German precision optics are mostly made in China, so they may have a bit of a rough time. Leica has scopes from Japan and from Europe, from Germany, and from Portugal. So it's either 24% tax on Japanese stuff or 20% tax on European stuff. So Leica is going up in price, which is unfortunate. I love those Leica binoculars. March is all Japanese, so for them it's bad juju. And March profit margins, are, comparatively speaking, for the industry are not very high, right? They have extremely high level of assembly, and they're not charging, comparatively speaking, that much for it. So March is going to have to jack up prices. Sai Optics, that's Canada and Japan, so they got hit. Citron is Japan and Philippines, so the Filipino stuff is going to be comparatively better positioned. Zeiss, most of the stuff I've been seeing from Zeiss, there's three scopes, some of the binoculars and structure are either European Union or Japan, so Zeiss is going to check up some prices, I think. Yeah, I don't think anybody is really coming out of this unscathed. The companies that are going to get hit the least are probably Burris and Leopold. I think everybody else is going to have to make some serious adjustments. So what's going to happen, they're going to try to avoid it for as long as they can while they're watching this whole tariff game unfold. And hope that they don't have to, go up, go down, and screw everybody over that way. Because imagine they jack up the prices by 25%. Somebody who really needs a scope goes, screw this, and purchases one. And then there are tariff negotiations, and they drop the price back down by 20%. The guy who just paid 25% extra is going to get really pissed and go to another brand for his next purchase. So everybody's is going to be trying to avoid the rapid gyrations. So that's my best guess. Oh, Link is saying primary arms. So I forgot primary arms. Yeah, primary arms is going to be tough. So PL line is Japan. GL is either Japan or Philippines for the most part. And everything else is China. So they're going to get hit. So for primary arms, it's going to be a little rough. But they have this new red dot that they are building fully in the United States. So that means they do have the facility. So perhaps this is also going to accelerate their efforts to start doing some more complicated optical systems integrated in the United States. Once you have the facility, once you have the means, once you have a little bit of know-how, it's relatively easier to expand into higher level stuff. But don't underestimate how difficult it is to assemble scopes, right? One of the reasons tangent data scopes, for example, are as good as they are is that they set out to take a very nice design and then have the highest quality assembly in the world, right? This is what the tangent stick is. They are built, aligned, and optimized spectacularly well, right? It's one of the things that makes them really, really good. There is a lot of know-how in there. It's not a straightforward thing to do. But if you have the expertise, you can do it. One really interesting thing for, let's say, a Canadian company like Armament Technologies, people behind Tangent Data, is there enough of a financial hit due to tariffs for them to go and try to go set up a facility somewhere in the United States? Because they do have the expertise, they do know how to get it set up and going. And again, to reiterate something that we just discussed a few minutes ago, I think this skilled labor problem is going to make all of this difficult. Again, I think that is something that everybody underestimates. As a culture, we tend to look down on skilled blue-collar labor. We tend to think, oh, anybody can do it. Horseshit. There is a lot involved in that. It is very hard to do well. It's very hard to do consistently. Optical integration, optical assembly is not quite that simple, especially on the higher end of things. The use of metrology tools and a variety of other things is really hard. The X. I really don't think Japan, Europe, Canada, Philippines can afford a long-term tariff situation with the US. China's economy is not as robust as would have everyone believe, and they may be hit the hardest by this. So China is going to get hit very hard. Philip, Japan, Europe, Canada, Philippines. I agree with you. They cannot afford a long-term standoff. So that's one of the reasons I think there's going to be a ton of negotiations happening behind the scenes, and we will see changes. But until that happens, I kind of have to treat this as the status quo and go from there. But I agree with you. I think US is the largest economy in the world. I think we can tolerate a little bit more of a trade war than other people can, but not too much more because we've got elections in 2026 for Congress, and we have elections in 2028 for uh, the presidency. So my best guess is that the reason why Trump is having all this activity this early on is that he's hoping to wrap up with all these negotiations and the crazy volatility that comes with it sooner than later, so that by the time we truly hit the next election cycle, all of that is water under the bridge and the economy is humming along. I hope he's right about this, but again, I'm very concerned about the labor shortage that we are already experiencing. Like in my world, in optics and photonics world, the skilled labor shortage is ridiculous. And for example, right, so I run a US subsidiary day job of an Israeli company that makes electro-optical instrumentation of all sorts, right? Israel just got hit with a 17% tariff, which for us is a big deal. And I'm hoping that most of that will go away because Israel does not tariff US goods, but we'll see. Okay. Not, I don't understand how this is reciprocal. Reciprocal. I do have a facility in the United States. In principle, I can start doing some system integration, some other things in the United States. In principle. In practice, given all the difficulties we've had with hiring people, it's a daunting proposition. Not because we don't know how to do it, not because we don't have space. Actually, we just moved office, we have space. But because I am concerned with being able to hire people to actually do the work. I have a good engineer. I have a couple of very good technicians who can build stuff, repair stuff, but we have a lot of work already. Um, if I were to want to do system integration here, I would need to hire a couple more technicians to build stuff. And I can either look for somebody who knows how to do this, which is going to be very, very hard, or I can get a couple of people and train them. And the moment they're reasonably trained up, they're going to go get a job at Raytheon, and I can't compete in terms of salaries and compensation with Raytheon. So I'm kind of between the rock and a hard place here. It's difficult. It's bring manufacturing back to the United States is a nice slogan, but it's not. It's much easier said than done. My long-term goal, again, for my day job was to do more in the United States. So I'm gonna put some job racks out and talk to some recruiters and see who I can find. Uh, but it's gonna be a difficult hurdle to overcome. Okay. And I don't anticipate that hurdle to become much easier anytime soon because the changes we're doing with our educational system are not happening fast enough. And I don't think we're emphasizing necessarily the right things. So at the federal level, okay, they are trying to take out the Department of Education the best they can. Noble goal. I am very much in support of that. But I am really not seeing any sort of a change in priorities at the local level. Still, everybody's saying go get a degree in lesbian dance theory in college. right? What I would like our educational system to do is so there are some people who thrive in an academic environment. They should go to college. There are a lot of people who are very bright and very capable, don't like school very much. And for them, we need to have apprenticeships, right? We need to give them the basic skills and basic knowledge, some basic technological background, maybe some vocational training. Then they need to be out in the world and in an apprenticeship program of some sort, learning how to do complicated, uh, complicated things that do not require a strong academic background, right? And for every guy like me who needed to do the academic things, you need to have 10, 15 guys who can do technically complicated things without academic background. We don't have them. We don't have them. We're not educating them. We're not pushing it. We're not encouraging it. We're forgetting to tell people that a good plumber is going to be making quite a lot more money than an English teacher, right? But in other words, I think we've got a very complicated problem here in the United States. And I don't think we are taking it seriously enough. I don't think we are addressing it from all of the different angles from which we need to be addressing it. Hitting it only from the tariff standpoint and encouraging big business to bring facilities here standpoint, I don't think that's going to be enough. Okay. Mr. The X. STEM is currently not emphasized. It's been given a backseat to GI. It will take 5 years to undo the cancer we have now. It will take a lot more than 5 years. So here's the part again, because I have kids in middle school, so I see this. So first of all, it's not only about STEM being emphasized versus the DI nonsense. You need more than STEM. We have a lost generation of boys, and for the jobs we're talking about, it's going to be men who are boys now. We've got a lost generation of boys who have been treated for 35 years like badly behaving girls. That's not going to end badly. And on top of it, we have kids right now, like my kids, are the age where they just spent 3, 4 years locked up because of COVID. Okay, and as these kids get a little bit older and start entering the workforce in a decade or so, that is when you would think you have a good, you kind of have a shift of generation where you have people who can work, etc. The psychological damage we did to our children with the COVID lockdowns is only going to be fully understood a decade or so from now when people, I'm 48, so I'm going to be getting around 60, that age where my generation is kind of going to be trying to do high level things. Some will be going closer toward retirement. I'm never going to retire. I'm going to be wheeled from my office to the cemetery someday. And the generation that's behind us, that's entering the workforce, is going to be, I worry it's going to be, I don't know if it is, but I'm concerned that it's going to be damaged goods to a good degree. Because we kept them locked up when they should have been learning to interact with other humans. We drove them nuts, and that's not something you can just take back. Okay. So that's that. All right. 43 minutes in it. So 10 more minutes. If there's anything else you think I didn't cover, you want me to go over, I will be happy to. And if not, I'm going to wrap this up and get back to my actual day job. Technically, this was my lunch break. And I don't have a formal day, but I do need to go eat something and get back to it. I've got a couple of proposals I need to edit. What else you guys have? Anything from yesterday's live stream or from tariff issues? Anything I can address in a few minutes before I wrap this up? Oh, yeah. For people like me who have a bunch of used optics to sell, this may not be a bad time. So maybe I should go. I've got a bunch of stuff that I've been wrapping up with. Maybe I should go list it because everybody else is about to jack up their prices, and I don't usually care. Will this create a growth in US optical manufacturing? So, for riflescopes, maybe, but I'd be surprised. For other things, we've been trying to grow it and expand it for quite a long time, and everything has been stopped dead in its tracks by the labor issue. So generally, yes. The estimates are that within the next decade, we'll need about 100,000 or so engineers and technicians, not thought leaders, people who actually do the work within the optics and photonics world, and that's without riflescopes. And we are educating a couple hundred a year. So where we're going to get them, nobody knows. Um, Everything rides on availability of competent labor, right? I cannot go grab 10 people who are picking lattice in the field, bring them into an optics lab, and have them do anything competent. If they are trainable, they'll be ready to go in 5 years. If they are trainable. Okay. I run a small company. I do not have 5 years to train people before they are productive. And large companies, they have the resources to train people. What they don't have is the foresight. Okay. In many, in a weird way, this problem can be resolved by some of the larger companies starting apprenticeship programs and knowing that they're bringing in people and paying them and not getting anything in return for several years until they get trained up. They actually have the resources to do so, but they are all responsible to their shareholders. So unless we've got another Elon Musk to take onto the labor problem in a significant way, we're kind of hosed, guys, from all possible directions. But again, I think the tariff situation is going to be alleviated to a good degree by negotiations. Another thing I'd like to see, so if they want the tariffs to stay, fine. What are they going to do about our income taxes, right? So my, 34% tax on China, tariff on China, 24% tariff on Japan, 20% in the EU, 17% on the Philippines, 32% on Taiwan, 24%, what is it, South Korea, something like that, don't remember, 17. Right, so my purchasing power just went down by about 30% overnight. So what is our esteemed government going to do about lowering my income tax burden? Right? If they start collecting revenue from tariffs, great. Push some tax cuts through, right? And if they do that, they might actually get, Republicans might actually get reelected. If they don't, the voters are going to put the Democrats back in charge in 2028, and that's a little bit too soon. They have not learned their DEI, equity, etc. lesson yet. If Democrats get back into power in 2028, we are going to be back in the same crap that we were in a year ago. So all of this is a little bit depressing, but also very fluid. Things are going to be changing, I believe. I think we will see all sorts of gyrations over the next couple of months, 3 months or thereabouts, where we are in April. If I was a betting man, I'd bet all the gyrations are going to stabilize by the time we get to September, October. But the summer may be a little rough. So we shall see. Time will tell. All right. 5 more minutes, then I wrap this up. Anything else? Going once. Going twice. I know there is a little bit of a delay. When I say something, you guys hear it about 30 seconds later, I think, or 20 seconds, whatever. So I'll give it a minute and I'll log off. All right. Still have a couple of the tumblers. If anybody wants to sign up to my website, become a paying supporter, and make a post that you just did, and I'll send you a tumbler. Thank you all. You guys have a good day. I'm going to get back to my primary occupation. And if there's anything I missed, as always, put it in the comment. I'll try to get to it later if I can. And the best way to get a hold of me, darklordofoptics.com. Thank you all, and you have a good day.